Something that makes VR stand out against regular games is the immersiveness a VR headset brings. Depending on the experience, you can feel truly connected to the game, at least more so than you would on a flat screen. This can be used for plenty of amazing VR experiences, but one aspect that I think goes widely unappreciated is the social side of this. Socializing in VR can better replicate the feeling of talking to people face to face much more than a regular game or Discord call can accomplish. Today, we're going to be delving into the hows and whys of social VR and what makes it so special. Starting off with something that can really only be accomplished through VR, and that's body language. In a flat game, you can sometimes do things like emote or start making your Fortnite skin throw straight cheeks in your friend's face, but in VR, the actions you see are what people are actually doing. It sounds like something that wouldn't be that meaningful, but this one little aspect makes such a gigantic difference in immersion. When talking to someone, you can see them move their hands when describing things, point to things they're talking about, nod their head in acknowledgement while listening, etc. These are things that go even further than just social games in VR. Interestingly enough, in a few rare instances, I've actually used this physical presence to have more fun in actual games outside of things like VR chat. In Pavlov, there's a mode called TTT where 3 people play as traitors, and everyone else has to figure out who the traitors are. On one occasion, I was able to physically signal to my teammate to go for the kill with me, followed by a nod of approval, all done without speaking out loud and blowing our cover. Pavlov also uses the player's actual physical height, and I remember one of the most immersive experience I ever had in VR was taking a gun someone dropped and holding it over their head while making fun of them for not being able to reach it and take it back. In that instance, it only really worked because the player was new and didn't know you couldn't grab guns out of people's hands, but regardless, the physical movements and actual height being accounted for made it a much more immersive experience. Playing games with people and seeing the way they physically move also adds a visible layer of personality to the person you're playing with, in a way you simply don't get with a flat game and their static pre-built animations. Seeing your friend physically show disappointment when losing a match of Uno, or seeing their head bob up and down when laughing, shows a side of someone you simply don't get to normally see when playing online. It feels a lot like playing split screen with someone, where the main focus is still on the game, but occasionally you'll catch a glance of the person you're playing with and understand how they're feeling a bit more than you would with somebody in a Discord call. But it goes even further than just focusing on a game. Because of VR's unique ability to immerse, it's more susceptible to what we call social games. Games like VR Chat and Rec Room, may Mark Zuckerberg rest its soul. These games are mainly focused on the social part and the people in the game, instead of the actual game itself. VR Chat especially.
Oh, this one moves. Miss?
Moves? Did the last one not?
Hey, are you ignoring me? Okay, good, you're not ignoring me. Good. Oh, I got blocked.
Rec Room and Horizon Worlds, when they were alive, were a bit more focused on the games themselves than VR Chat is. But at the end of the day, a big major part of all of these experiences are meeting and talking to people. But to be more specific to VR Chat at the moment, it's essentially the leading social game for a couple of main reasons. It has a lot of options for all types of people to talk, and even has a subculture of people who don't talk called mutes, thanks to the game's built-in text chat. There are a lot of people who are able to enjoy and converse with people without ever actually having to say anything, yet still being able to leave impressions and be personable, thanks to a mixture of text and the ability to express themselves through body language and facial expressions built into some of the VR Chat models. There's also people who literally cannot talk, who can make use of VR to talk to people through text, to converse in a way they physically cannot in real life, or use sign language to converse in a way they're more comfortable with. Another huge thing for people that makes social VR so special is the ability to express yourself through an avatar of your choosing. Picking or creating a character that looks like how you want to represent yourself is something you obviously can't do in real life, and something I'm sure hideous people absolutely love. Bit aside though, not having to get dressed up and leave the house to have a similar experience to going out is something a lot of people take advantage of and greatly appreciate. Now, I know how absolutely fucking chud that sounds, so let me get this clear. This isn't to say that VR should replace physical interaction, even though for some fat old bearded dude it definitely has. but rather to say it's a good option for people who can't always go out for whatever reason. It's great for people who want to hang out with people who live too far away to do so physically, or people who have anxiety and struggle with physical interaction, or simply a way to hang out with people in a physical way from the comfort of your own home. There's also a certain level of privacy you get by being behind a headset. Instead of going by your real name, you have your username. Instead of everyone seeing you fully, they see only what you want them to see, which can make it more comfortable for people to be more true to themselves without worrying about looking ridiculous. Now, this can be both a good and bad thing. On one hand, people can be more comfortable, be their true selves, but on the other hand, they can pretend to be someone they're not and do some pretty evil things. If you're a parent, please don't let your kids play VR chat. Dark Switch Pro could be fucking anywhere. It may be hard to believe, but even when the deepest, manliest voice you've ever heard in your entire life comes out of a little tiny fucking mouse, the act of being in VR still feels so real. VR is probably the most immersive medium there is, and after a while of being in VR, that initial disbelief starts to fade, and it feels more and more like you're truly in the experience. Because in a way, you are. When you look down at your hands, they're whatever your avatar's hands are. You look in a mirror and you don't see yourself, you see your avatar doing whatever it is you're doing. Like you're really looking into a mirror to help sell the illusion of really being a part of this experience. Wearing a headset, while limited, replaces what you're seeing with a whole different world. One you can touch and interact with, even if you can't physically feel it. This is likely what leads to the surplus of VR e-daters, since they can see their partner using a love ends. Okay, Jesus Christ, I can't include that. Another aspect to that realism is the act of seeing other people. You know, on the other end of that headset, there's a real person. So when you see them laugh and fall over physically, it's no longer just a person laughing in the mic. It feels as if there's somebody laughing right next to you, in a way that's so hard to explain. Now, all of this stuff is crazy cool and really immersive, but something I'd like to mention that pretty much nobody has mentioned when talking about this subject is Bone Lab Fusion. Bone Lab is a VR game where the driving factor behind it is that everything is dictated by physics and objects can have actual weight, along with your player also being affected by physics. Because of this, Bone Lab is one of the most immersive VR games I can think of. But Bone Lab is a single-player game. That's where Fusion comes in. Fusion is a mod that adds multiplayer to Bone Lab in a super polished way that feels official. This leads to what I believe to be one of the most immersive social VR experiences there is right now. Fighting my friends and being able to physically grab their arm and restrain them from punching my face, and it playing out differently depending on the weight and strength of our avatars is insane. It feels like I'm really fighting the avatar I'm looking at, and it can be insanely immersive. There's a certain level of disconnect you get in VR chat when you put your hand out to someone and you go right through them. But in Bone Lab, seeing your body interact as you'd expect is such an insanely immersive experience. If you haven't tried Bone Lab Fusion, I'd highly recommend it. Even outside the immersion of the physical presence you get, it's a pretty fun game to have sandbox fun in. Just make sure you go in with plenty of mods, since the campaign can be quite hit or miss, and for most, it's usually a miss. VR has a level of immersion like no other. Being in a headset creates such an incredible feeling of physical presence, and that's a wonderful thing for a lot of people. In a world where the internet can connect us with people we would have never been able to meet without it, VR gives us a way to enjoy those connections one step further. There are people whose best friends are people they can only hang out with virtually, and VR is an excellent tool to help replicate the feeling of physically hanging out. For the longest time, some of my best friends were people I knew exclusively online, never sharing a physical space with them, and only after 7 years did I actually wind up meeting them for the first time in person. I remember meeting some of them in VR for the first time and having some of that first time physical meetup awkwardness. But when we met up in person, that awkwardness wasn't there. And I wonder if part of that is because I was able to meet them through VR first. That meetup was some of the most fun any of us had ever had. Physically hanging out with each other was an incredible experience for us. But we're all in our 20s and live in different states. Money is tight, and we aren't able to see each other very much at all. Hell, to this day, that one trip was the only time we ever got to physically hang out. Regardless of that, we all still hang out pretty much every day. Some of us in VR, sometimes just calling, etc. VR has been an awesome way for some of us to replicate some of that connection we can't get due to physical limitations, and for that reason, social VR has been something I, and many others, have found greatly special. And another thing people love is all the VR chat gooning people get up to. But that's besides the fucking point! VR is an excellent way to talk to people, or learn to talk to people, and I definitely, highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one where I go over phantom pain and if it's real. It's a pretty fun watch, I think, especially if you like this one, they kind of go hand in hand. You can also get 10% off the entire MetaQuest store using the link in the description. It's the best way to help out the channel outside of subscribing. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one, fat bitches. Lops and kisses!